All right, good morning, everyone. Let's come to order and go on the record, please. I'm Charlotte Mitchell, Chair of the Utilities Commission, and with me this morning are the following commissioners. When I call your name, please announce your presence. Commissioner Brown-Bland.
Present.
Commissioner Gray.
Good morning.
Commissioner Clodfelter. Commissioner Clodfelter is here. Commissioner Duffley.
Good morning.
Commissioner Hughes.
Good morning.
And Commissioner McKissick.
Good morning.
In compliance with the State Government Ethics Act, I remind members of the Commission of their duty to avoid conflicts of interest and inquire as to whether any member of the Commission has a known conflict of interest with respect to matters coming before us this morning. All right, the record will reflect that no conflicts have been identified, and we will proceed with public staff, water items. P1.
Charles Junis, engineer with the Public Staff, Water, Sewer, and Telephone Division. Water items P1 through P8 filed by Aqua North Carolina, Inc. in docket numbers W218, subs 512, 514, 515, 516, 519, 521, 522, and 523, respectively, are notifications of intent to begin water and/or sewer utility operations in contiguous service areas. It is recommended that the Commission issue the proposed orders recognizing the contiguous extensions.
Move approval of the recommendations for items P1 through P8.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion that's been seconded that the items be approved as recommended by the public staff. Any questions or discussion?
Chair, just one quick question.
All right, Commissioner McKissick, you may proceed.
Yeah, I was just wondering how you determine the amount of the bond that would be the public staff recommends on these specific applications. I noticed one of them was 20,000, whereas the other ones were 10,000, as I recall in reviewing the data. So how is that analyzed and determined as these particular applications that have been before us are evaluated?
Yes, sir. Commissioner McKissick, the minimum bond required is $10,000 for water or sewer. So the ones where we've recommended 20 is where they are extending that service area for both water and sewer. With these continuous extensions, most of them are relatively small. That's why we've stuck to the minimum bond requirement, and because Aqua has a considerable amount of total bond posted, those were all considerations for that recommendation.
Thank you. I was just interested in getting it for purposes of context. Thank you.
All right, any additional questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll for a vote. Indicate your support for the motion with an aye, your opposition with a no. Commissioner Brown-Bland.
Aye.
Commissioner Gray.
Aye.
Commissioner Clodfelter.
Aye.
Commissioner Duffley.
Aye.
Commissioner Hughes.
Aye.
Commissioner McKissick.
Aye.
And for the record, I support the motion as well, and the motion carries. All right, we will proceed with public staff water item P9. Mr. Junis, I believe we are with you.
Mr. Henry's going to present item P9. I think he was on mute.
All right, Mr. Henry, you may proceed.
Okay. Good morning. I'm Winley Henry with Public Staff Accounting Division. Item P9 is docket number WS218 sub 526A. On October 29th, Aqua filed an application requesting authority to adjust its water system improvement charges and sewer system improvement charges effective January 1st, 2021. This is Aqua's first filing to implement charges under which consist mechanism against the sub 526 rate case. Aqua proposed which consists revenue requirement and percentages are listed in the agenda item. The public staff has carefully reviewed the Aqua stated which consists improvements. And based on this review, the public staff is recommending 3 adjustments to Aqua's proposed which consists revenue requirement and percentages that are discussed in the agenda item. The public staff recommended Wisconsin's revenue requirement and percentages based on these adjustments are reflected in the agenda item. On December 29th, Aqua filed a letter with the commission in this docket in which the company agreed with the public staff recommended adjustment, except for the adjustment to remove $153,268 of grinder pump. Though not in agreement about the fundamental eligibility of the grinder pumps for recovery under General Statute 62-13312, in light of the Commission's useful guidance in the recent CWSNC order and the interest of efficiency, Aqua reviewed the grinder pumps from consideration in this case, respectfully requesting the right to reserve them for consideration in future CIS surcharge proceedings. A proposed order is attached as Exhibit P9. The public staff recommend the commission issue the proposed order approving the public staff recommended water and sewer system improvement charges effective for service rendered on and after January 1st, 2021, subject to true up and requiring customer notice.
All right, thank you, Mr. Henry.
Move approval of the recommendation.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion that's been seconded that the item be approved as recommended by the public staff. Any questions or discussion?
Chair Mitchell, I have a few.
All right, Commissioner Hughes, you may proceed.
Yes, and Mr. Henry, some of these are engineering questions, so I'm not sure if you need to refer to someone else. But the first off, the accounting question is, are grinder pumps considered to be in rate base?
Yes, they are. They are capitalized. They are capitalized and included in rate base.
So in terms of, I think a lot of grinder pumps, and we saw this in one of the other items, are contributed by the developers at the time of construction. So they wouldn't necessarily be in rate base, but then once they get replaced with a new grinder pump, then it would go into rate base. Do I have that right?
If they're contributed by the developer, they would go into rate base, but they would be offset by CIAC, so they will have no net effect on rate base. And if a new grinder pump replaces the one that would not be contributed, then it would be in rate base and be recovered from the customer.
Okay. Do you know offhand roughly how many grinder pumps Aqua has in service?
No, I have no idea.
Okay. It's not that important for this agenda item, but I would be curious about that and the average life of a grinder pump, if that's something Aqua's been tracking. I'm assuming you probably don't have that information either.
No, we don't have that information, but I guess we could ask a company and maybe they'll be able to provide it to us.
Okay, and do you know, does Aqua have an approved grinder pump policy that they use across their service area, you know, that deals with everything from kind of developer contributions to maintenance and repair, or is it on a system by system basis?
I'm not aware of a grinder pump policy that Aqua has. No.
Commissioner Hughes, if I can just add, my understanding is that is more of a system by system. You'll even look at the tariff. Some systems are called out regarding a connection fee, and then also the replacement of grinder pumps if there's misuse, and is Aqua maintaining them, or is it a homeowner issue? So I think there's actually maybe some contention on some systems regarding that also.
Okay, well, thanks. I just, a lot of these gray hairs are from when I had to deal with grinder pumps in Chatham County, so I was just curious. No further questions, Chair.
All right, any additional questions or discussion? All All right, hearing none, I'll call the roll for a vote. Indicate your support with an aye, your opposition to the motion with a no. Commissioner Brown Bland.
Aye.
Commissioner Gray.
Aye.
Commissioner Clodfelter. Commissioner Clodfelter's an aye. Commissioner Duffley.
Aye.
Commissioner Hughes.
Aye.
Commissioner McKissick.
Aye.
And for the record, I support the motion as well, and the motion carries. All right, thank you, Mr. Henry. We will now proceed with public staff water item P10.
So this is Charles Junis again. Water item P10 filed by Aqua North Carolina Inc. in docket number W218 sub 526A is an application for approval to implement 3 secondary water quality system improvement projects. On December 30th, 2020, the public staff filed its report and recommendations regarding the application. Based on our review of the application, the public staff has concluded that each of these projects, the filters are necessary for Aqua to provide adequate secondary water quality. It's recommended that the commission issue the proposed order authorizing Aqua to implement its 3 proposed filtration projects to comply with secondary water quality standards. I would just add, I believe there are representatives from the company and folks from the public staff available to answer any questions the commission may have regarding this item.
All right, thank you, Mr. Junis. Commission does have several questions for the company. I see Mr. Becker and Ms. Berger on the video conference as well, I believe is Mr. Bennick. So I will ask the questions and allow you all to answer as appropriate, but before answering, please do identify yourself for purposes of the record. All right, so why did the company proceed with the Cape filtration?
Madam Chair. Yes,
Chairman,
Commissioner Brown Bland, you may proceed.
I was just pointing out Mr. Bennett was trying to get your attention.
Okay, Mr. Bennick.
yes, Chair Mitchell. Prior to the questions, if it is acceptable to the commission, we've asked for an opportunity to make a brief statement to you to give you some background regarding this matter. And in addition, we have Shannon Becker. Mr. Becker is the Aqua president, and he's available to respond to questions as well. So
Okay, thank you, Mr.
I'd
Bennick.
like to make a statement.
You all may proceed with your statement.
All right. We want to thank you for allowing us to address this matter in order to provide content and history to this request, which we believe is necessary to an understanding of the company's position and its request for relief regarding this matter. On December 9th, 2020, Aqua North Carolina Incorporated filed an application for approval to implement 3 secondary water quality improvement projects pursuant to GS 63-133.12C4. All 3 of these projects involve, all 3 of these projects involve the installation of iron and manganese filters at wells. In response to the comments and recommendations filed by the public staff, and to a further review of the procedural posture in this case, Aqua wishes to provide the commission with additional detail with respect to one of those projects. That is the company's filtration project for the Cape Master System well number 8. And that system is located in New Hanover County. The purpose of the investment at the Cape in well number 8 is to address the long-standing periodic issues with primary water quality standards at the Cape. The commission and the public staff know that Aqua has wrestled with these problems for several years. They are a function of persistent challenges from high levels of TTHMs, which are a consequence of disinfectant byproducts, or DPBs. Aqua is responding to a notice of violation, or an NOV, which was issued by the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality on July 20th of 2017. And as part of that process, the company files quarterly reports with DEQ and faces regulatory expectations for remedial action. So if Aqua is addressing a primary water quality standard, then we understand why you ask, why did the company request approval of a secondary water quality improvement project? And that's because the solution to the primary problem required recommissioning a well that was affected with secondary water quality issues. Although the company filed its application for this project premised upon a need to meet secondary water quality standards related to the need to mitigate excess levels of iron and manganese in the water supplied by this well, that is not a complete and accurate statement of the need for the project. And I thank you for allowing me to make this explanation. Over the past few years, Aqua has considered various treatment options for removing TTHMs at the Cape Master system. One primary option initially considered by the company, which carried an estimated price tag of $1.7 million, was premised upon changing the disinfectant from chlorines to chloramine treatment. After further review and study, the company decided that there was a less costly alternative, which involved rehabilitation and reactivation of the Cape Well number 8, including installation of an iron and manganese filtration system. By comparison, the estimated cost of this project was $680,000 to $705,000. The Cape Well number 8 has been offline for several years due to elevated iron and manganese concentrations and customer complaints. Because the solution selected by the company to resolve the primary water quality issues at the Cape Master system requires installation of an iron and manganese filtration system to eliminate the secondary water quality issues, and in anticipation of cost recovery in a WISC application, Aqua applied for approval of a secondary water quality improvement project. In hindsight, and in view of the concerns expressed by the public staff regarding construction of the project without prior commission approval, Aqua has determined that, since the company has always considered the need to reduce TTHMs at the Cape to be a primary water quality issue and not a secondary water quality issue, the better course of action would have been to treat the project as one authorized under GS 62133.12 C3, rather than subsection C4. Hindsight, as we all know, is always 20/20. Primary water quality projects authorized by subsection C3 do not require prior commission approval. Aqua sincerely apologizes for the confusion which has been created by the company's application for approval of a secondary water quality improvement project, when, in fact, the project is one designed to address and mitigate a primary water quality issue. Now I want to recap the timeline for this entire situation. More than 1 year ago, the company filed an executive summary with the public staff on December 16th, 2019, requesting concurrence and support from the staff for installation of the filtration system at well number 8. Aqua specifically stated in the email transmittal that the proposed project was necessary to address a primary maximum contaminant level. The public staff sent a first data request to the company on June 30th, 2020, to which Aqua responded on August 19th, 2020. And on September 28th, 2020, the staff sent its second data request, to which Aqua responded that day. On October 8th, 2020, the public staff advised the company by email that the staff, quote, will recommend approval before the commission of WISC treatment for the cost to install green sand type, i.e. manganese oxide filtration at the Cape Well number 8, close quote. Aqua subsequently filed its application for approval of the 3 secondary water quality improvement projects on December 9th, 2020. Aqua has from the beginning viewed the problem to be corrected at the Cape Master system as one involving a primary water quality standard, notwithstanding the fact that the selected solution involves installation of a filtration system designed to mitigate secondary water quality issues. Aqua received authorization to the well number 8 filtration project from the North Carolina DEQ on August 14th, 2020. Because the requirement to mitigate the excessive level of TTHMs affecting the Cape is a matter of primary water quality, the company pushed forward with construction and installation of the filtration project at well number 8. Current estimate for the project is that startup is scheduled this week. The project will not be in service until sometime in either late January of this year or early February 2021. And that's because the company cannot apply for final approval from DEQ until after startup. The company recognizes that its construction activities with the project are arguably inconsistent with the requirement of GS 62-133.1.12 And that's the section that's applicable to a secondary water quality improvement project. And it states that any such project should be, quote, installed at the direction of the commission, close quote. Additionally, Aqua's position is that this is a primary water quality project, if accepted, and that acceptance would omit the requirement for pre-approval prior to start of construction. In conclusion, Aqua respectfully requests that the Commission recognize and declare the Cape TTHM mitigation project to be a primary water quality improvement project, which is eligible for recovery in a future properly filed WIS surcharge application. Or, in the alternative, we request that the Commission approve the project as filed, nunc-pro-tunc, notwithstanding the project construction schedule, as a secondary water quality improvement project installed at the direction of the Commission and eligible for cost recovery in a future WIS surcharge proceeding. That completes my comments, and as I've stated, President Becker is available for questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bennick. Your remarks were helpful to my understanding of the situation, and you actually answered one of the questions that I had, or at least maybe more than one of the questions that I had for you. But I would like someone, Mr. Bennick, either, or you may do this, or a representative of the company may explain the circumstances that exist in the Cape master system with respect to saltwater intrusion and why it was determined to reactivate the Cape well number 8.
Yes, we'll ask Mr. Becker if he wants to reply to that, or someone else with the company.
All right, Mr. Becker.
Sure. Thank you, Chair Mitchell, and thanks for the opportunity to allow us to explain the situation as you need. In this situation here, I'm going to defer, if it's okay, to Amanda Berger, who's our Director of Compliance, who has more of the details of the specific technical requirements and the assessment for the Cape.
All right, Ms. Berger, you may proceed.
For the Environmental Compliance Director can you hear me? Okay. I'm Environmental Compliance Director for Aqua, North Carolina. In brief, to explain the circumstances behind the reactivation of well number 8 comes down to there are one well located in the southernmost section of the system, Seabreeze, that has elevated bromides and chlorides. Per our hydrogeologists, both on staff and contracted, they've identified this as as being due to saltwater intrusion from snows cut. The particular area of concern for elevated TTHMs is located within very close proximity to this well. So for a period of time, what we have done is actually not utilize the Seabreeze well to try to reduce the elevated TTHMs in that particular area. Recognizing that we needed to, we still need that source of supply. There are periods, especially during the summer months, during heavy irrigation, et cetera, also when our TTHMs are most elevated, we have a need to utilize the Seabreeze well. To prevent further reoccurrence of TTHMs and also be able to have sufficient supply for the system, we determined that we would reactivate the Rivers and Sanders well to provide that additional source of supply. The Seabreeze well pumps approximately 300 gallons per minute. The Rivers and Sanders project was permitted for, I believe, 200 gallons per minute. So we haven't fully satisfied recouping that 300 gallons, but we're much closer. The Rivers and Sanders well has been technically active in DEQ's inventory. We've never actually deactivated the well. We had chosen not to utilize it because the iron concentrations were so high. They ranged in anywhere from 1.5 parts per million to over 2 parts per million based on our water quality results. Recognizing we needed that supply, but not wanting to supply the system with elevated iron, we chose to go this route and install the filter and turn that well back on. And this will keep us from having to utilize the Seabreeze well, which of course is contributor to the TTHM issues. Does that answer?
It does. Thank you for that explanation. Ms. Berger, you have answered our questions. Any additional questions from commissioners?
I just have a quick question, Chair Mitchell.
Commissioner Hughes, you may proceed.
And one of them is similar to the grinder pump, and this does relate to the secondary treatment world. Does Aqua keep track of how many accounts are now being required to be served by these filters, these green sand filters or their equivalent? Is that just something that you all benchmark with of the number of either wells or accounts that are served by them? I'm not sure who that would be.
This is Shannon Becker, President. This is Shannon Becker, President for Aqua, North Carolina. Can you hear me?
Yep.
We actually know the systems that we have each of the filters installed, whether it's a secondary water quality or primary water quality based filter. So we could calculate the number of customers as one or more green sand filters to address secondary water quality. Some of our systems are served, as you know, by multiple wells. Not all wells require a green sand or a filter installed to address some contaminant levels. So to say how many customers are exactly served by a certain well, especially in larger systems where we have 1 or 2 filters and there's several other wells that are not filtered, it would be hard to say exactly how many are served, but we could say the number of systems and the number of customers within that system that have a filter on it to address a contaminant level, whether it's secondary or primary.
Okay, and the reason for my question, the thing I'm trying to get a handle on is just, I know a lot of this occurred before my time on the commission, but secondary contaminants have been a huge issue. Is essentially what percentage of your system customers have already been, quote, converted? What are we likely to see coming on in the future with these projects? Will there be a time where this levels out? And I'm also curious, related to that, is any kind of cost benchmarking you do, since this has been such a big cost item for the company, whether you look at cost per gallon per minute or cost per account served for installing these systems. Just any type of cost benchmarking that you have to kind of see whether these costs are going up or down, and how you can maybe project future costs.
Yes, we do an analysis in our executive summary process. Well, first, back up. We initiated a water quality plan, I believe, back in 2017 that would prioritize the systems. And we did this in collaboration with assistance from the public staff, and we presented to the Utility Commission and the Attorney General's office as well with regards to this plan. And what it did was prioritize the systems based on water quality, customer complaints, and various other issues and needs. And there's a process, we try to take a cost beneficial process that's the most prudent for the customer, which includes operational flushing, other operational maintenance, tank cleaning. If we can provide sequestration to certain levels of contaminants where they're not obviously, where once you get to a certain level, you're going to require filtration. So we work through a cost progressive analysis and operational plan before we get to the installation of a filter. And I know as part of the public staff's review and the executive summaries, they do incorporate a cost per gallon, or they look at the cost per gallon of certain things, whether it's filter or whether it's sequestration or whatever else that we can do. So we're always looking at to providing the most prudent methodology, and that's kind of through that progression plan that the public staff is also engaged with in providing a response and an approval for whatever we do. Now, our prioritization plan has several tiers of, basically the worst first. We address the highest level of contamination first, and we also consider the number of population that those that serves. We're starting to get through our group 1, which is the highest priority, the highest level of contaminant levels. And now we will be moving in the next few years into group 2. And again, before we make a recommendation, before we move forward with a project, it will go through that executive summary process and that review with the public staff and the commission's approval.
Okay, great. Sounds like I need to get up to speed on those executive summaries.
I'd be happy to share. I'd be happy to share some of that information with you in past presentations if you'd like.
Okay, thank you very much. No further questions.
All right, any additional questions from the commission?
I move approval of the recommendation.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second that the item be approved as recommended by the public staff. Mr. Junis, I see your hand. Would you like to speak?
If I may, because what we have recommended here is a little bit different than what the company has requested here this morning. I believe that the eligibility of the Cape project for well 8 would be subject to the next WISC surcharge filing that would come likely in May, seeking approval for effective July 1. I believe that you can proceed with what we filed here and what appears to may be passing without making that determination of whether this is truly WISC eligible under C3 or C4. I think it's a procedural matter, but this was not the venue. We were just trying to put everyone on notice that this is something that was a red flag for us when reviewing the application, and that this may be an issue come that future surcharge filing.
All right, Mr. Bennick, response from the company?
Well, I think we stand behind our request. I would agree that the cost recovery is not an issue per se today, and that would be the issue when the company does file a WISC application for surcharge cost recovery of these costs. But we do think that with the additional background that we've provided today, that it ought to be pretty clear on the record that this is really a primary water quality project and not a secondary water quality project, so that there is no question of prior approval being required for it before starting construction. But if you do consider it to be a secondary water quality project, we think we've given you the rationale and the basis today to make a determination that the fact that the company proceeded with construction was reasonable under the circumstances and ought to be given your approval non-pro-tunc. As we pointed out, the company did begin the process with an executive summary in December of 2019, more than a year ago. It was not until October the 6th, and understandably there was a lot going on, that the public staff signed off on the project. But the company received its operational permit to construct from DEQ in August of last year, and made a decision that they needed to proceed with this in large part to satisfy the expectations of DEQ, that the remedy was on the way and in the works. And so we're at the point today where the filter is going to be activated today or sometime this week and online, hopefully by the end of the month. and think it's appropriate that on the basis of what the company has said today, that you go ahead and make it plain that this project, either as a primary water quality project or as a secondary water quality project, is eligible for with cost recovery in the next proceeding.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bennett.
Now, one other thing I would say is that, kind of in response to Commissioner Hughes' question, and I looked at Mr. Becker and Mr. Berger to make sure I'm right, but this project is also a level 1 well, correct? In terms of the iron and manganese problem, it's in the first category, correct? And it will correct that. And as I previously said, DEQ did sign off on this project and did give them a construction permit. That's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bennett. All right, so we've got a motion from Commissioner Brown-Bland that's been seconded that the item be approved as recommended by the public staff. Any additional questions or discussion?
Madam Chair, I would amend my motion with respect to the Cape filtration to indicate that we would approve it either that we will approve it either as primary or secondary, but that they may go ahead and implement, and that this, as indicated by Mr. Junas.
All right, Commissioner Brown-Bland, we lost you for 1 second. Would you please restate your amendment to the motion?
I would amend it that the Cape project, the filtration be allowed, the company be allowed to implement it as recommended, but it would be either as primary or secondary, that decision to come later as discussed by Mr. Junas.
I would second that amendment.
All right, we've got Commissioner Brown-Bland's motion as amended with a second from Commissioner Gray. Any questions or discussion? All right, Commissioner Clodfelter. Commissioner Clodfelter, I see your hand. Let's proceed with you first, and then Commissioner McKissick. All right, Commissioner Clodfelter, you are muted. John, can you help
hear me?
Commissioner?
Yes, now.
I'm on the phone audio hookup. Can you hear me?
Okay, we can hear you now. You may proceed.
Okay. Commissioner Brown-Bland, is your motion that if the project is to be a secondary water quality project, the approval is non-proton, or is it approval only as of today?
It's approval only as of today.
Commissioner Clodfelter, did you hear Commissioner Brown-Bland's response?
I would support the motion if it's non-proton, but I will not support it if it's only as of today. I support approving the project non-proton.
As either secondary or primary?
Well, as Mr. Bennett says, and the statute says that if it's determined to be primary, no approval is required. If it's determined to be secondary, approval is required. And if approval is required, I would make that approval non-proton.
I'll amend my motion accordingly.
Approve.
All right, Commissioner Brown-Bland has again amended her motion, and I just to confirm, Commissioner Gray, you approved that amendment?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner McKissick, you may proceed with your questions.
Actually, it was the very same question that Commissioner Clodfelter asked. I guess was seeking that clarity because that had come up, and I think that doing it non-proton would be appropriate. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any additional questions? All right. Hearing none, I'm going to call the roll for a vote. Indicate your support with an aye, your opposition with a no. Commissioner Brown-Bland.
Aye.
Commissioner Gray.
Aye.
Commissioner Clodfelter.
Aye.
Commissioner Duffley.
Aye.
Commissioner Hughes.
Aye.
And Commissioner McKissick. Commissioner McKissick is an aye, and I support the motion as well, and the motion carries. All right, we will proceed now with public staff water item P11.
Charles Junis again. Water item P11 filed by Aqua North Carolina Inc. in docket number W218 sub 544 is an application for authority to transfer franchises for providing water utility service in Shepherd's Way and the Oaks at Hunter Hill subdivisions in Nash County to Nash County, which is exempt from commission regulation. The commission staff has brought to our attention some suggested edits to the proposed order and the customer notice pertaining to the deadline to receive any protests, potential of an in-person or remote public hearing, and a correction of the present 2-inch base facility charge, all of which the public staff are agreeable. The public staff has reviewed Aqua's application and recommends that the commission issue the proposed order as modified by the commission staff, requiring customer notice, specifying that the matter may be determined without public hearing if no significant protests are received subsequent to customer notice.
Madam Chair, I have a question about this item.
All right, Commissioner Brown Bland, you may proceed.
Mr. Junis or someone from the company or both may answer, but I'm looking for a little bit of light regarding what prompted this transaction and context, please.
I will defer to the company on this question.
Commissioner Brown Bland, I'm sorry, Commissioner Brown Bland, this is Shannon Becker. I would need to, just so I don't confuse facts with the number of systems and developments that we have, I would need to follow up internally, if that's okay, provide a response following the session. I don't want to say anything that might be incorrect.
All right. Is there any info you can provide at this point though about why you were looking for this transaction, or was it the locality that's looking? Do you know?
Again, I have several developments I'm thinking of in my mind, and I apologize. I just don't want to convey the wrong information for this one here. I can follow up, within the day to get some additional information for you. I apologize for that.
I would appreciate that, and thank you for that. Notwithstanding, I will move approval.
I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion with a second that the item be approved as recommended by the public staff. Any question or discussion? All right, hearing none, I'll call the roll for a vote. Indicate your support with an aye, your opposition with a no. Commissioner Brown Bland.
Aye.
Commissioner Gray.
Aye.
Commissioner Clodfelter.
Aye.
Commissioner Hughes.
Aye.
Commissioner Duffley.
Aye.
And Commissioner McKissick.
Aye.
I support the motion as well, and the motion carries. All right. Thank you, Mr. Junis. I believe we are now at the commission has its minutes of December 21st before us for approval.
Move approval of the minutes.
And a second.
All right. Commissioner Brown Bland with a second from Commissioner Gray moves approval of our December 21 minutes. Any question, discussion of the minutes? All in favor indicate with an aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, our minutes are approved. Any additional business for the commission this morning? All right, hearing none, we will be adjourned. Thank you very much.